According to Ukrainian intelligence, Russian conscripts are increasingly opening fire on their comrades. Officers are executing subordinates for refusing to follow orders, and units are disintegrating from fear, alcohol, and chaos. Near Vuhledar, a commander forced 2 conscripts to fight to the death in a crater. Both were ultimately executed. The scene was captured on video, and the footage was later recovered by Ukrainian soldiers. One officer described it as a gladiator staged by drunken conscripts. Near Kupyansk, a drunken brawl escalated into a shootout. 5 Russians killed each other, even though Ukrainian forces were not nearby. A field medic who tried to intervene was shot in the throat by a Russian soldier who shouted at him for being a spy. Ukrainian commanders sometimes deliberately avoid intervening, allowing the Russians to thin out their own ranks. Russia has returned to the practice of Stalin's blocking detachments. Ramzan Kadyrov's fighters stand behind units, preventing retreat with threats and executions. Russian military courts have already opened 11,000 cases of desertion or insubordination since the beginning of mobilization. Casualties are so high that units that began the war with 800 men are returning with fewer than 100 fighters. The Kremlin is sending prisoners, the elderly, the mentally ill, and even amputees to the front. The Russian army is not based on discipline and motivation, but on fear, and is increasingly afraid of itself. The Daily Mail says that commanders are shooting their own men for refusing orders, for failing to pay bribes, and sometimes just for sport. In scenes of medieval brutality, soldiers are being forced to fight one another to the death, but brutality is not control. Western officials estimate that Moscow has suffered more than 350,000 casualties, killed or wounded, since February 2022, when Putin's invasion began. It is believed to be losing around 1,000 men a day on some sectors of the front they call the meat grinder. Some units that began this war 800 strong are returning from the battlefield with fewer than 100 men, the survivors hobbling home without limbs or hope. It's a rate of attrition so severe that Moscow has been forced to replace the dead with prisoners, the middle-aged and the disabled, physically and mentally, simply to keep the trenches manned. Around Avdiivka in the Donetsk Oblast, in eastern Ukraine, where Russian losses have reached grotesque levels, I'm told that units now speak of their army as a beast feasting on itself. One Ukrainian intercept recorded 2 Russian Marines talking. "We are not fighting a war. We are being fed to it," they concluded, the Daily Mail says. It is noted that a group of mobilized men had refused to climb out of their trench during yet another failed assault on the Ukrainian guns. Their commander ordered his soldiers to haul 2 of them into a shell crater at gunpoint. It was, he thought, the perfect arena for the horror he had in mind. Russian-on-Russian fire has reached such levels that Ukrainian officers sometimes hold back when firefights break out in this sector. If they want to thin their own ranks, one told me, we let them. Verstka, the independent Russian news outlet, has documented dozens of cases of intra-unit violence or executions since mid-2023. A new scandal is brewing among Russian patriots and propagandists. Kadyrov's militants have once again demonstrated who really runs Russian society by forcing one of the Kremlin's bloggers to publicly humiliate himself. Russian Z propagandist Ilya Remeslo previously insulted Ukrainian collaborators Vladimir Grubnik and Tatiana Montyan, calling them crypto-cockly. This remark displeased the collaborators themselves, and Grubnik complained about the blogger to Kadyrov's men. Soon, Remeslo was summoned to speak with Kadyrov's deputy, Akhmat commander Apti Alodinov. He gave the propagandist a teaching session and forced him to record a video apology. In the footage, Remeslo appears intimidated and extremely polite. All his aggression and contempt have vanished. This episode was further confirmation that within Putin's system, even loyal Kremlin supporters live in fear of Kadyrov's men. Z propagandists quietly despise not only Ukrainians but also ethnic minorities within Russia itself, primarily Chechens. But they are unable to say anything to their faces. Recently, Kabada, Balkaria resident Oksana Kobeleva has been charged with discrediting the Russian army after she criticized Chechen Akhmat commander Apti Alodinov on her Telegram channel. Kobeleva and her husband, the authors behind the pro-government Telegram channel Okranota V. Vatnik, were both detained on Wednesday by officers from the Center for Combating Extremism. It is unclear whether a case will be opened against Kobeleva's husband as well. Discrediting the Russian army has been considered an administrative or criminal offense since March 2022, shortly after Russia began its full-scale war in Ukraine. The Telegram channel OMTV, which is listed on Russia's Foreign Agents Registry, noted that this case was yet another toad viper in the Patriot terrarium. The pretext, it seems, was sacrilege. She dared to criticize General Akhmat Apti Alodinov, a Kremlin favorite, OMTV wrote, noting that just days prior, Kobeleva had menacingly called for standing shoulder to shoulder with the Ministry of Defense against foreign agents. Now she stands shoulder to shoulder with her husband by the prison latrine. The toad bit the viper and the viper complained to the FSB. How romantic! It is unclear what exactly Kobeleva wrote. According to Caucasian Not, all critical posts related to Alodinov have been deleted. However, the outlet noted that up until the 20th of October, the channel had published a number of laudatory posts about Akhmat, as well as reposting things from Alodinov's channel. While Alodinov has yet to directly comment on Kobeleva's case, he has reposted several other Telegram commentators, including one who claimed Kobeleva was a former supporter of now-deceased Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Other posts shared by Alodinov claimed he was being subjected to highly suspicious avalanche of negativity from female bloggers. In addition to Kobeleva's alleged negative statements, Alodinov has recently faced criticism from Marina Akhmedova, a member of the Russian Presidential Council for Human Rights and Civil Society Development.